Hi everyone, my name is Tori, this is Novel Life, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have my top 22 books of 2022. So I have been meticulously going through all of the 460 books that I've read this year in 2022. Yes, I know that's a lot. One of my goals is to slow down a little bit. I know, you don't have to tell me. There are some books that I knew for sure that were going to be on this list, and there were some books that I flip-flop back and forth quite a bit because I wasn't sure between these books and some other books. Anyway, I have 22 books to share with you. These are my top reads of 2022. It was such a great reading year. I discovered so many books, so many new authors. I've went and met those authors at book signings, and it's just been a fantastic year for reading, for meeting book friends, for everything like that, and I'm extremely grateful. So, with all of that being said, let's just dive into my top 22 books of 2022 because I'm excited to talk about them. Okay, so the first, not that I cheated with this, but I had to, just a little bit. There are two books, but they're part of the same series, and I couldn't pick between my favorites between the two of them, and this author is not going to come as a surprise if you watched my authors I've discovered this year, and that is Nikki Castle, and that is 5 Rounds by Nikki Castle and 2 Fights by Nikki Castle. So these two books are the first two books in the Fight Game series. 5 Rounds I read, I think at the very beginning of January, something like that, and I fell in love with Tristan and Remy's story. I love them. It is an enemies to lovers, roommate, forced proximity romance. Remy is forced to stay at Tristan's apartment, which he shares with Remy's other best friend, and he's going out of town for 2 weeks, and while she gets a new apartment set up because she left her other apartment, it's a mess, I know. She goes to stay in that apartment, so they're forced together. They have the most hate to love, enemies to lovers relationship. And while I loved this book and their tension is off the charts, they are just fire and ice, I'll tell you that. But they're both MMA. Well, Tristan's an MMA fighter, and Remy also trains at the same MMA gym that he goes to. He is trying to make it big in the MMA world, which is why I love this book so much, because if you know me, I love MMA. Love MMA. I love watching it, love reading about it. And Nikki Castle does it so well. I also figured out that Nikki Castle is a badass because she used to fight MMA, like she used to compete and stuff like that. And her husband owns a gym. And then 2 Fights by Nikki Castle is just the polar opposite. It is a friends to lovers romance. And this follows Haley and Jax. And Haley and Jax, their story is really touching to me. I love it. I mean, I gave both books 5 stars, but this is my favorite. I've talked about this literally nonstop since I've read this in January. I knew that these 2 books were going to be on my top books of the year because I just love them so much. Haley's story, it's 2 fights because she's fighting 2 fights in her life. One is leaving her abusive ex-boyfriend. Well, you come to find out it's his ex-boyfriend. You see a little bit in 5 Rounds of their relationship, and she leaves him, and Jax is there to literally and figuratively pick her up and just make her better. And she goes through this healing journey, and I really, really love it. I think it's a great story. She modeled this book after her sister Haley, which I find that's really interesting that was her sister's story, and she kind of wrote it in there. So yeah, these 2 books I knew were going to be on the top of my list, but I'm counting them as one book, so this is one out of the top 22 of 2022 because I couldn't pick between these 2, and I couldn't, I've already narrowed down so much, I couldn't pick anymore. But you know me, Nikki Castle is an author that I love, and I would read anything that she publishes. The next book I have is also not going to come as a surprise if you know me, and that is Credence by Penelope Douglas. I discovered this book, I think in January, February, and this has become just such a good read for me. I have yet to reread it, just because I've had such vivid memories reading this book. I can look back and I can remember my reactions to listening to this audiobook, and I was like, holy shit, this book is a banana. So I will say this book is not gonna be for everyone. I know that. I've gotten, oh, I love this book too, or oh my god, this is your favorite book, and I get it, it's fine, not every book is going to be for everyone, but I love this book. This is a step-uncle, step-cousins romance. Our female character, Tiernan, her parents actually die by suicide. They choose to go together. One of her parents is dying of, I think, cancer, and they just choose to go together. She is 17 at the time, and she has a couple months till she turns 18, and in her father's will, he says that he wants her, Tiernan, to go live with his strange stepbrother. So it's a step uncle. She's never met him. She doesn't really know anything about him, but he has 2 boys, and she has a thing relationship kind of thing with each of them. And then she chooses someone at the end. So it's not why choose, but it is like a spicy, spicy goodness. It's a thick book, but it's so good. I love who she chose in the end, which is why it's one of my favorites, because I just love that type of character that she chose. I love Tiernan's story. So while this is super spicy, Penn Douglas writes super spicy things. We know this. I do love the like healing and character growth that our female character goes through, which I've related to a lot. I love that. I think that her story is beautiful too. She's come to find herself, and it takes her a lot to do that. Also, at the same time, she has really fun, spicy times with all of them. So love this one too. I know it's not gonna be for everyone. That's okay. Don't come for me. The next book I have is Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. I chose the original cover to show today, but I have 3 covers of this book. I have 3 different editions of this book, and when I read this book, I was blown away. This kind of introduced me to Jennifer Hartman's writing, and I've read her basically whole backlist. I have 3 books. One is a co-authored book. Well, I have 2 books. One is a co-authored book, and one is a second to a duet that she rewrote, so I haven't went back and read that yet. But I've read everything so far this year besides those 2 books, which I'm pretty proud of. She is another author I've discovered this year and fell in love with. I will write anything she writes. She writes with such emotion and such darkness that is just, it like sings to my soul. I don't know what it is. So in this book, we have Cora and Dean. While this is a pretty short book, so much happens. Literally so much happens with these 2 characters. Dean is technically Cora's sister's fiance, and I think he's a little bit older, but he's been around for 10 years, and one night he goes to pick her up from a bar because her sister's not answering and she's drunk, she can't drive home. On the way home, someone pulls them over, like forces them off the road and kidnaps them. And he is basically like a psychopath. He is a serial killer and he wants them to do unspeakable things to each other. So it is extremely dark. There's so many triggers. I can't even list them all. Once they go through that 2-week torture together, when they go back to normal life, it's not just going back to normal life. They struggle a lot, both of them do. And they find this kind of comfort in each other because no one else has gone through what they've gone through, and they heal together but also have to like go through a lot of things separately. And I just love the story. It is such a beautiful romance of 2 characters that I just absolutely love, and I think that everyone should read it if you love a dark romance. And yeah, this video is going to be ridiculously long because I'm going to talk about all of these books. So it's going to be one of my longest videos of the year. Sorry, not sorry, but you just get to hear me gush about my books. So, okay, the next book I have is The Brit by Jodi Ellen Malpas. So this is another dark romance that completely blew me away. Now, I was in my dark romance prime this year. Like, I read so many dark romances. I am not mad about it. And this book is also not going to be for everyone. It's one of those books that if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. Both of these characters have so many things wrong with them and so many things that they have to go through. And this kind of opened my eyes to Jodi Ellen Malpas's writing. And she is also another author that I've discovered and I loved this year. And I cannot wait to read more of her backlist. This is a mafia boss, kind of, I guess you could say. He takes over for someone who's rescued him when he was younger. So you see him as a child being abused by his stepfather. Once again, there's a lot of triggers in this book. Sorry, if you need them, message me, I'll tell you them. When Danny takes over the mafia, he is introduced to Rose, and Rose has her own super dark past. And both of these characters have this darkness inside of them that no one else has recognized before. Like, they're just, I don't know, they have this thing that they see each other in, they see something in the other, and they go on this like journey together. And it's messy and it is dark and it is not perfect and it is just so angsty and so torturous that I don't know why I love those so much. I love morally gray characters. I love when both characters are morally gray, and this is also one. And where both of the characters are like that. And I just absolutely love this book. Now, I have continued on with the series, and I will say so far, this is my favorite in the series. All the books get longer and longer, and there's this overarching plot, so you do have to read them in order. But this book is one that blew me away when I listened to it, and I just think that Danny Black is an amazing character, but so is Rose. So this is another book that I knew was going to be on my list when I read it. The next book, I actually do have a physical copy of this book, but I refuse to get it down because it is on literally the top shelf of my bookshelves, and that is House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. So I debated on whether or not to put this on my list because I feel like this is going to be on a lot of people's lists. And while Crescent City is not my favorite series that Sarah has written, I still say ACOTAR, Throne of Glass is a really close second. I love a lot of characters she has written, but she has a lot of characters in her series, right? Now, I cannot say anything about this book. If you read Crescent City 1, or what is it? Earth of Blood and something. I don't know. I call them Crescent City 1, Crescent City 2 because I can never keep up with the names. When you read Crescent City 2, it takes a lot. But one thing I love that I know it's not going to be for a lot of people, Sarah writes with such like sneakiness. Like you don't see things coming. Like no matter how much you prepare for it, you really do not see it coming. And the ending of House of Sky and Breath, I was not spoiled by it. But let me tell you, when I got to that part, I screamed. If you know, you know. If you don't, go read it. I mean, you have to read, 2 chunky books, but at the same time, it is such a reading experience that I was blown away. Just that ending really made it for me, and what Bryce is going through, what Rune Dannon is going through. He is one of my favorite characters. I don't know what, like Hunt. Who's Hunt? Rune Dannon takes the cake, which is Bryce's brother. And I love this fantasy. I cannot wait for Crescent City 3. I can't wait for whatever she publishes this year. I will eat it up. So yeah, I put it on this list. I feel like it's going to be on a lot of people's list, but I couldn't pass it up. The next book I have to talk about is Praise by Sarah Kate. Sarah Kate is another author I've discovered this year and fell in love with the Salacious Players Club series. Now, I will say I am probably more of a fan of her stuff going forward, like from the Salacious Players Club series and things that she publishes going forward, because I've read some of her backlist and they're not my favorite. You could definitely tell she's grown with her writing, which we all love to see in an author, right? And this Salacious Players Club series, all of the books I really, really enjoyed. But going back to the first, Praise, Emerson, oh my god, he is Consent Daddy AF, and I fucking love it. I don't know what it is about him. He is stuck with me. When I see him in other books, I just fall in love with him all over again. This is an ex-boyfriend's dad romance. So Charlie, our female character, she breaks up with her boyfriend and they have an apartment together, and to get their deposit back, she has to go to Emerson's house, which is her ex-boyfriend's dad, to get the deposit because he like co-signed for the apartment because they didn't have like the best credit, which is totally normal for people who are like 2021. I did that when I first moved into my first apartment, me and my, now husband, but at the time, boyfriend, his dad co-signed for us. So he had the deposit check and she had to go there to get her other half. But when she gets there, Emerson thinks that she is his new sub, as in like dom sub relationship. So he's like, get on your knees if you want this money, thinking of course he pays them for their time. And she's like, well, I really need this money, so I guess I'll do it. Well, then, as they're having this conversation while things are happening, he realizes, oh shit, she's here like as my son's ex-girlfriend. What have I done? And he gives her a job. They start working together. He goes through this long list of like kinks because he owns the Salacious Players Club, which is a kink club basically where people can go and explore their kinks in a safe place. And I loved this book. It is hot. It is steamy. It is everything that I want in a taboo forbidden romance. And yeah, Emerson takes the cake. Consent Daddy AF. Love him so much. Yes, it's taboo. Yes, it's forbidden, but it is all the goodness I love in a romance book. Okay, the next book is actually a historical. So I have not read very many historicals this year. It has just not been my historical year. But I did finish out Lisa Kleypas's Wallflower series and the Ravenel series. And one book in those 2 series that has stuck with me, Devil in Winter by Lisa Kleypas. Sebastian St. Vincent, oh man, I still think about him so much. Now, his son's book in the Ravenels is a close second. I was so close to putting that one on there. It was between this one and that one. And I just feel like there's something about this story where I get my morally gray goodness in a male character. Sebastian St. Vincent is all of it wrapped up. I absolutely love him. You see him in the other 2 books before this, and he does something horrible. But Evie, who is our female character in this, goes to him and it says, look, I know you did some horrible things to my friend. I know that you actually really didn't mean them. Like, I can kind of see through your shit, basically. I need you to help me because I'm being abused by at home by her. I think it's by her uncle. She has a stutter, so she gets really nervous. And that comes out when she's anxious or she's talking to someone she doesn't know. And while Sebastian St. Vincent on one side of the coin is this awful, horrible person that has done some really horrible things to some of her friends in the other books, and a lot of people see him as this rake and horrible person, he is just absolutely the sweetest to Evie. Not at the beginning, but when they're forced together to go on this carriage ride to go get married, because he's like, all right, fine, I'll marry you if you if you really need that. Like, I'm not going to let you keep getting abused, but she has to get out of that family. She doesn't want to be married off to anyone that her uncle picks for her. And she decides this is my last chance. And they have such a beautiful romance together because he is literally only nice and sweet towards her. Oh, and I love it so much. I love it so much. Like, these 2 characters have a special place in my heart. This is why I love historic romances. Like, this book right here is why I love historic romances and why I love Lisa Kleypas's writing, and I ate this series up and the Ravenels. And yeah, I just think, I feel like I could talk about him forever. And I love him so much. I love him so much. Love him. The next book I have is actually going to come as a surprise to some people because I have a whole reading vlog where I trashed part of this series, but I love the other half. And that is Hot House Flower by Krista and Becca Ritchie. So the Addicted series, Lillian Lowe, not my favorite. That's not what this is about. Hot House Flower, Reich and Daisy. Ooh, one of my favorite age gap romances, probably of all time. I love Reich so much. Okay, I've said this before. Reich is not going to be for everyone. He cusses up a storm. He cusses in like every sentence he says, okay? And if you know me in real life, that is how I speak. Sorry, not sorry. That's just how I am. Words are words. That's how I see them. I grew up around cussing and just became part of my language. I know that sounds bad, but that's how I am. I've tried to tame it down just a little bit when I film, but that's just how I am. Sorry, but Reich is like that. He does not give a shit about anyone but Daisy. And they have this he's around her when she's 16 and he like takes care of her in a protective way when she's 16 and 17. But when she turns 18, there's just like this switch that happens. He really starts to see her as like an adult. She's starting to come into her own. She wants to do things with her life that a lot of people don't want her to do, like her family and stuff like that, because they're really rich. And I just really love the journey that they go on. Now, Connor and Rose, which is the other two in the Calloway Sisters series, they're a really close second. I love them so much. I don't know. I just love the age gap and forbiddenness and Reich the way he is as a character. And that's like the different, like that's what sets him apart from the other ones. So I love him so much. He is such a precious little adorable badass guy. Oh, and he rides bikes. Did I forget that? They both ride bikes. They both ride sports bikes, which if you know, I love a man on a bike. Love it. Tell me why I decided to do 22 books for this video. It is going to take me so long to go through all these books. So if I start speeding it up, sorry. If not, I apologize that this video is like 45 minutes long. Anyway, next book that I have to talk about is Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. Jessa Hastings has taken the book world by storm. I feel like she's a genius. She's not going to be for everyone and everyone's going to have that differing opinion. And that's totally fine. When I say Magnolia Parks, I mean the Magnolia Parks universe. I read Magnolia Parks, Daisy Hates, and Magnolia Parks Long Way Home. I am currently in the middle of reading Daisy Hates, The Great Undoing. This whole world that she has created is something that just draws me in, and I cannot stop when I pick up these books. I am drawn into the characters and this London society world, and I'm like convinced that this is like a thing. Like these people really do have this like world that they've created, and these people are living their lives in London somewhere, and I'm convinced I need to go to London and find them. Like that's how I feel about these books. So when I say this one book, it's really this series, but you have to read them in order. I know I've said it multiple times. You can skip Daisy Hates if you really love BJ and Magnolia, but it's okay. You need to read them in order, okay, to get the full story, okay? Anyway, Magnolia and BJ are this very toxic. They don't even have a relationship in this first book. Like, they're broken up. Okay, I'm not even explaining this right. BJ is someone who has a lot of things going on in his life, and him and Magnolia broke up because BJ cheated on Magnolia. That's not a surprise or like a spoiler for the book. You learn that pretty early on. They have this toxic romance, but BJ has said countless times, and I truly believe this, Magnolia is his soulmate. And just because that happened doesn't mean that they won't be together. Their story is messy and angsty and horrible, and it'll drag you through the mud, but I promise you, they belong together. Like, same thing with Daisy and Christian. I feel like they're not as like angsty and toxic as Magnolia and BJ, but they're pretty up there, and I'm just dragged into this world. The full box set, which is all of their friends, BJ and Henry and Tom England and Julian Hates and Daisy Hates, and all of these characters I absolutely love, so there's no way that this series, Magnolia Parks universe, wouldn't be on this list. Like, there was no way. The next one I have is Requiem by Kelly Hart. This is not going to come as a surprise, but I literally have not heard anyone else read this out of my friends, which makes me a little sad. I hope that they get to it in 2023. I cannot say very many things about this book because it's going to spoil it, but the whole premise is, I'll just kind of paraphrase the blurb for you. We have our female character, Sorrel. She goes to this like kind of high school boarding school type of a thing. She's living in a foster home, and they train these women and foster kids to like really stand up for themselves, do not get bullied. Like, they're trained in fighting and stuff like that. And she goes to this, like, I say boarding school, like, or high school basically. In there, she is supposed to take down Theo, which Theo is supposedly responsible for her best friend dying. There was a car accident and her best friend died, and she's like gonna take him down basically. And when she goes there, she meets Theo, she starts setting her plan in motion, things happen and secrets come out, and it is not what she thinks is happening and what she has been told. And I love this book. That's literally all I can say about this book because anything else will spoil it, but I think Theo is the most beautiful character in the world. Like, beautiful soul. Like, he is absolutely perfection, and I love him. I mean, look at him. This is the perfect Theo, and he's also on the back. Like, he's absolutely freaking gorgeous. The next book I have is Sweet Dandelion by Macaulay Smeltzer. Macaulay Smeltzer is an author that I want to explore more. She's one that I've read. This is the first book I've read by her, and I'm really, really interested. We go on a flippin' journey in this book with Dani, let me just tell you. She has lived through things that probably no one else will ever live through in their lifetime. At the beginning of the book, we see her at school in high school. Her mom is a high school teacher, and there is a school shooting, and her mother passes away, and she is severely injured. Dani is severely injured, and she goes to live with her brother in a different state, and she starts at a different school, and she is put into this kind of like therapy program, but with the school counselor, Lachlan. And that is our main male character in this romance. Yes, it is very, very, very taboo. Very taboo, very forbidden. There are consequences in this story, which is what I love, like high stakes consequences. It is thick as shit. Thick. She thick. Do you see this? But I listened to the audiobook. The narrator for the female character, she narrates with such emotion that brought more emotions out of me. Sometimes the narration and the narrators for an audiobook for a story can elevate the story, and in this case, I really think they did. Oh my god, she did such a good job, and I think that Dani's story is very relatable. Like, I can see myself in this character, which is why I loved it so much, but also Lachlan also has his shit going on too, so they both go through this journey, and they just find this comfort in each other. And I would say romance, of course it leads to a romance, but the comfort that they find in each other is also beautiful, and I love it, and I want to get a dandelion tattoo. That's how much I love this book. Okay, next book is A Love Letter to Whiskey. I am not going to talk about this one too much because this is just another character-driven, angsty romance. It is the right person, wrong time, constantly, like on repeat, like 5 times it happens. Basically, both of our characters, Jamie and Bea, they are, like, it starts off, you see Jamie starts dating Bea's best friend, and of course he's off limits right from the bat. They break up or whatever, but then they go their separate ways in kind of college. It's a journey that this book takes you on, and that's why I love it so much. It's the journey you go on with these two characters, that it is like, sometimes you meet a person in your life that is supposed to be in your life, but it is just the wrong time. And that is this book. But they will always be I will say they will always be there for each other when they need it. And that is what I love about it. Not every book is going to be perfect in everyone's eyes, but in my eyes, when I read this, it was a perfect time, and I fell in love with Bea and Jamie, and I love their story, and it is horrible and tragic at the same time, but they do have an happily ever after, and I love it so much. She's thick, but she's beautiful. The next book I have is one that I haven't shut up about, and that is The Words by Ashley Jade. I feel like this is going to be on people's top lists. Like, a lot of people fell in love with Ashley Jade's writing. I read The Devil by Ashley Jade, or A. Jade, which is the same person. That is totally different than this book. Like, I don't know what she did, what happened to her in her life to write this book, but oh my god, the angst in this book. The story in this book, what happened to Ashley? Like, what happened to her to make her write this book? This is a rock star romance, and we see our characters when they're both in high school. Lennon is a girl that is bullied by some people, like, not popular, I guess. And then we have Phoenix. He is in a band, and he is starting a band with his friends, and Lennon is a songwriter. I mean, like, do you see her name? As in John Lennon. I think her dad writes lyrics as well. He's a songwriter, so it continues with her. And they kind of have this like weird friendship, but something happens in high school where Phoenix kind of betrays Lennon, and he's part of the group that bullies her, I guess. It's just something that happens. I don't want to say. Years later, she still holds this animosity for Phoenix, but Phoenix's manager gets in contact with her in with her and is like, look, Phoenix needs to get his shit together. He is throwing his life down the drain. We need you to come on tour with him and keep him in line because you won't fall for him and basically have sex with him and just fall for his charm. She's like, okay. She needs the money, so she says okay, and she goes on tour and they kind of rekindle and have this second chance romance, but it is a journey. It is not easy. It is not something that they just fall back into, and it is beautiful. And whoa, Ashley Jade, what did you go through? What did you go through, girl? I don't know what it is. The next book I have is Ivy by Will and Ash. This is another book that I loved and read, and I was opened up to Will and Ash and Devney Perry. It's the same author. This is a pen name. And when I tell you this is such a unique book, it's just a fun time, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's not gonna be for everyone, but I loved the romances that we got. You get 3 separate romances in Ivy, and I really enjoyed that. It's not gonna be for everyone because they are in college, and we follow Ivy, who is kind of head of, I wouldn't say a group, but she has this really big house that her parents have and that she lives in. I forgot her friend's name that lives with her, but she has an extra room where you see our first character that we're introduced to. Her name is Cassia. She goes to live there. It's like rent's really cheap. She's just trying to get through college. She doesn't have a lot of money. She's just trying to get through shit, right? But you also follow, while they kind of develop this messy friendship together, you also see them kind of develop relationships with other people. My favorite relationship is Zaid and Alora. Forgot her name. She has a really unique name. And I only love him because he is Ivy's older brother. Is his name Zane? I think his name is Zane, actually, not Zaid. Zane. He is Ivy's older brother. So he's a lot older than them. So it's a little bit of an age gap secret because she's trying to keep a secret from Ivy. But also he rides bikes. That's just my thing. And I loved it. I thought it was a really, really good book. While it's long, it's still really good. Okay, the next book I have is not a romance. And that is Where the Mountains Meet the Sea by A.R. Breck. I wasn't going to put this. I was going back and forth between this and another book. And I thought between those two books, between this one and the other one, this one had such depth to it, and it made me have an emotional reaction that I was like, oh, okay, I have to put this one on there. So I really, really enjoyed this one. This one just really kind of blew me away, and I wasn't expecting that. But like I said, it's not a romance. There's a heavy romance plot, but basically we follow our 2 characters that have known each other since they were really, really young. He is a rock star and she is a ballerina, as you can tell from the cover. And I was really, really just taken back. I knew it wasn't a romance going in. Like, I knew they didn't have an HEA. There was just things where I was reading and I was sobbing the end of the book, and I was messaging my friend McKay, like voice messaging her. I'm like, why did you tell me to read this? And I was just like, sobbing at the ending. And I actually find their love beautiful. It's tragic, but it's beautiful at the same time. So that's all I'm really going to say, because I don't want to spoil it for anyone if you want to read this book. The next book I have is The Hookup by Kristen Callahan. This is, yes, a lot older book. I read it this year and I was blown away. I love Drew Baylor so much. This is a football new adult romance, as you can tell from the cover. And he is so worshiping and pining and just in love with this girl, and he falls first, and he just has this like feeling of, this is the girl that I'm supposed to be with. And she's like, whoa, you're a player? I'm not looking for that right now. And so he's not taken aback, but he's like, kind of sees it as a challenge to like make her fall for him, because he knows he's supposed to be with her. Like, it's not like a game to him. It's, I know you're supposed to be with me, and I'm gonna make you like fall for me, and somehow. And I really just, I loved it. I read while I listened to the audiobook, which I started doing, and I absolutely love that. I don't know why. It helps me focus better, but also just slows down, because if I'm listening to it whatever speed and I'm reading along, I'm really digesting the book and stuff, and I just enjoy that. It makes it kind of like an all-encompassing experience. I don't know. I know I'm weird, whatever. But I did that with this book, and it was so good. I love the football aspect. I love the college aspect. It was just a really, really good book to me, and I really love that. The next book I have is the only book that I do not have a physical copy of, and that is The Brazen by Will and Ash. So, oh my god, I have 3 like Devney Perry / Will and Ash books on here. What the heck? Anyway, I've been talking about The Brazen for months now since I've read it, and I love Pierce Sullivan. There is something about him that has just not left my brain. And the way that him and our female character, which I cannot remember her name, but the way that they meet, there is just something that sticks in my head, and I cannot let go of it. It was so funny to me. But it was like such a pivotal moment in their relationship. Like, it was the start, but also like they knew something was going on. I don't know. And something happens. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it. But it was also like the little plot twist that took me by surprise too, because I was like, oh my god, is this really happening? I mean, it's not like a bad plot twist, but something happens where our characters have to split up for a certain amount of time, like not be around each other. And when they come back together, it is just gives me all the feels, and I love it so much. And I love Pierce Sullivan. He is rich, which I love. He's a billionaire. He has so much money. He spends it the way he wants, and I love that. I love it so much. The next book I have is Even If It Hurts by Sam Mariano. Are we surprised? No. Another super dark romance. Our main male character, Chase Darrington. Oh man, that man could get it. I love this book. This book made me fall in love with Sam Mariano's writing and actually made me go back and reread Untouchable because I've DNF'd that book like twice. I've tried to read it and I couldn't get past it, but I did, and I really enjoyed that one, but this is my favorite. So between the two, I had to put this one on here. I love Dare so much. He is psycho. He is literally a sociopath, and the way that his mind works is something that I am so intrigued in. He is obsessed with Aubrey, and when I tell you, he is never letting her go. He will have to die before she is like free of him. And that sounds so bad, but it's more, she knows how he is, and they go through it in this book, but there's something about their romance that I'm obsessed with, and I could not put this book down, and I cannot stop thinking about, and I just love Dare so much. Like, from the beginning, when we first meet him in that pool scene, and I was like, oh wait, who is this dude? Is this the dude that we're gonna like be like our main male character? I was taken away by him, and I love him so much. Oh, I love him so much. The next book I have is Juniper Hill by Devney Perry. So this is my third and final book by Devney Perry / Will and Ash on here. I just really like her writing, okay? Juniper Hill took me by surprise because this is a single mother romance. Memphis Ward goes to Quincy, Montana, and she is running away basically from her family. She does not want her child to grow up in the toxic, rich family that she did, where they really don't have any choices, and every choice is made by like her parents or grandparents or whatever, based on what's better for their family. And she doesn't want her child to grow up there. So she takes this tiny baby. He is like 3 months old, 2 months old. He's a baby. He's a baby, okay? And she takes him, goes to Quincy, Montana, starts living in Knox Eden's little like apartment that's off of his house, and starts working at the Eloise Inn. Now, his sister, Knox's sister, Eloise, set up everything, and she starts making, a little bit of money, but she's just trying to get back on her feet, and she is struggling. She is a struggling single mother, new mother, that I was surprised I enjoyed it, but her and Knox have this very emotional relationship. Knox has his past, she has her past. And when they come together, they don't talk very much in this book until like, I want to say like 60%, probably not really 60%, but like half of this book, most of this book, they don't really talk. They just are showing each other things with actions, which is something I really enjoy. It's something different, which I think why I love this book so much. But Knox Eden, I swear. Even Memphis, I love her as a character. This book is my favorite of the Edens so far, and I love it. The next book I have is Shattered Sea by Catherine Cowles. This is one of my favorite books by Catherine Cowles. I had to put Catherine on this list. I fell in love with her this year, and Shattered Sea is my favorite of the Tattered and Torn series. I am almost caught up with her backlist. Yes, I have 3 copies of this book as well. If you follow me on Instagram, I posted that already. I have the hard copy, I have the original cover, and then I have, the hard copy discrete cover, the original cover in paperback, and then I have the Hello Lovely Box exclusive edition of Shattered Sea. Am I mad? No. Because I love this book so damn much. This book follows Laken, and she is a character we see in, I think the previous book, Hidden Waters, I think it is. We see her, like, periodically in this series. So in this book, we have Laken, and she is the gallery art owner, I guess you can say, and her and Bowden have this really, like, breaking down the walls that both of them have built around themselves, and just, like, tearing them down and, like, rebuilding them, if that makes sense, together. And it's a story that really took me by surprise because I didn't know everything going in. And I've said this before, Catherine Cowles is an author that I really never read or heard of before until I went to Book Bonanza. And that's where I got an early copy of Shattered Sea. And I was actually really surprised of how much I just adored it. Of course, this has chronic pain representation, which is something I really love. I love the chronic pain representation. I think it's done really, really well. And it spoke to me, honestly, but that healing, there's just one chapter where Bowden breaks down in front of her. And it's like, I can picture it in my head, like it plays like a movie, and that's how well it was written for me. And I love it so much. I want to go back and reread it. I've reread this like 2 or 3 times this year, I think 2 times. Yeah, 2 times I've read it, and I just love it so much. Okay, we have 2 books left. Obviously, these are in no particular order, so if I didn't say that, they're in no particular order. But the next book, which has taken BookTube, Bookstagram, Book Talk by storm this year, Heartless by Elsie Silver. Okay, I would have never thought in my life that I would put a cowboy in a small town on my top books of the year ever. I am not a small town girl. I love the city, right? I love reading about the city and millionaires and billionaires and stuff like that. But Cade, he could get it. He literally could get it. Now, I have said this before. I don't know what Elsie Silver has done with her writing. I don't know what it is between this and Flawless. She gets it. She understands and she writes. I don't know if it's her formula. I don't know what it is. She writes characters, both characters that are equal and both characters that are just so, not relatable, but they're so enjoyable to read. Like Willa is a firecracker and I just love her as a female character. She is strong and powerful. She does not let Cade walk all over her, even though Cade is grumpy and he gets what he wants most of the time. But also he's a single dad and you have Luke, his son, that is just such a treat to read with him. Him and Willa have this relationship that's not like mother and son right off the bat. It's just like him being her nanny because that's what she's hired to do. But also her and Cade have this banter. And while it's so steamy, steamy scenes don't happen for half the book. But the tension between the characters keeps you going and you're like, oh my God, did you... I can remember so many scenes where the tension is just crackling across the page. And I love that. I love it in a romance and I love what she's done. I've read some of her Gold Rush series, the first series that she's published, but this is next level writing for her. And I'm so excited I've read this book and I cannot wait to see what she publishes. She is just blowing it out of the water and I love it. I love that she's grown into the writer that she is. And yeah, this book has literally taken everyone by storm. If you tell me someone who doesn't like this book, tell me someone who did not like this book and the reasons why they did not like this book. The last book I have is actually my top read of December, and that is 'Tis the Season for Revenge by Morgan Elizabeth. So this book has also taken everyone by storm in December. It is a holiday romance. Another book where I thought, oh, a holiday romance is going to be on my top books of the year. Yes, I am not sorry about it. Damien is, oh my God, this is, okay, can I remember what everything this is? This is an age gap. This is a ex-boyfriend's boss. Oh my gosh, I get so excited talking about it. Okay, she is the pink, the color pink in a person. And okay, not that I'm comparing, but I'm comparing. This color pink is literally what my library walls are. I am not joking right now. If I could paint these shelves pink, I would, but Brandon, my husband, said no, keep them white. I have so many pink things. I am the color pink too. So when I realized that she was like that, I was like, oh my God, we're the same, girl. But then she breaks up, her boyfriend breaks up with her on Halloween. She's supposed to go to a party with him, a work party. He's over her, thinks she's so immature because she's wearing a pink bunny costume or something like that, which, okay, dude, screw you. And he's like, oh, I think it's over. He's an asshole, whatever. She decides to get revenge on him and starts dating his boss. Now, she goes on a dating website, swipes and finds him and stuff like that. It's age gap. I think there's a 10, 11, 12-year age gap. He's a lawyer. One thing I love. Number two, he is worshiping. He is obsessed with her. And I love it. I love it so much. I love Damien. He is so amazing. I love him so much. And I just loved every second of this. Yes, it takes place between Halloween and Christmas and a little bit after Christmas. So it is a holiday romance, but it's not super heavy. You know what I mean? And I just love this book so much. Love this book so much. And those are my top 22 of 2022. I do have some honorable mentions that it was really hard to narrow down my list. It was really, really hard to narrow down my list. So I'm just going to mention Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. I personally love Real more than Before I Let Go. Even though Before I Let Go is a 5-star read, I just felt more emotionally connected to Real. Love that book. Between Hello and Goodbye by Emma Scott, that was close to being on here. Wanting Mr. Kane by Shanora Williams. If that series, the whole series, the 3 books in that series were really, really good, I would have put that one on there. But the first book was a 5-star read. The other was a 3-star. So I didn't put that one on here. I almost put the Mind to F series on here because that's one that I always recommend. And I was actually really surprised. I was going to put I Need You to Hate Me by Genesis Fox, but the trilogy is not complete. But I do talk about that one a lot. Those were both 5-star reads. I think the 3rd book is coming out this year. And if it does come out, I think that's going to be on my top books of the year. Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I decided not to put that one on here here just because these books made me have like an emotional reaction above, like more than that one. A Scoundrel of Her Own by Stacey Reid, that one was really good. It just, for historicals, it wasn't like my absolute favorite historical. So I had so many 5-star reads in 2022. It was honestly hard to narrow down to 22. Like I wanted to do top 25, but I thought, okay, no, try and do 2022, that's fine. Next year will be 23 of 2023. So got a little bit more room with that. We'll just keep getting higher and higher each year. But let me know what your top read of the year. If you can narrow it down to one, let me know in the comments. Drop me a pink heart emoji because it is my last video of the year. And I love pink, obviously. And I'm just really grateful to all of you guys. And I want to show my love for you and appreciation for, you know, making me like keep going and publishing videos and stuff like that. So I hope that you really loved all the content this year that I published, and I cannot wait for all the content that I have coming in 2023. I really hope you like and subscribe for more content for me. As always, I really hope you are living a novel life in whatever way that means to you. And I will see you in 2023 for my next video. Bye guys.